boss fights. What would an epic adventure be without them? Donkey Kong Bananza offers a mixed bag of bosses and many boss fights, as this duo journeys through layer after layer in search of the Banandium root. There are 18 unique fights to consider in this amazing game, so let's not waste any time and get to ranking them. Starting off with the first boss of the first layer, Lagoon Layer's Re-Peekabruiser. This fight is more of a teaching moment for the players to understand when to use a Bananza ability. It's covered by a texture only Kong Bananza can destroy. Its movements are too quick at times, and the Kong Bananza won't have that long of a lasting charge, so the players will have to catch up and time those punches right. Once the steel texture is destroyed, it's time to throw some quick punches at it to chip away health from the group of Peekaboo-poids. As expected, the leftover Peekaboo-poids are little pests trying to pounce on the player. It's an okay boss fight, but it's only the very first one after all. There's seriously nothing at all challenging here, it's just getting the players started. I'm just gonna place this on D tier. Moving on to the next layer, a mini boss fight in the Canyon layer, and the first interaction directly with Grumpy Kong. This fight kind of feels like an expanded version of the first boss fight, as the game is continuing to teach the players about the different textures and how to destroy them. The design of this boss is pretty clunky looking. It almost feels like Grumpy Kong tacked together different materials last minute before DK and Pauline arrived. A little surprising for the director of manufacturing. I like that the gold limbs are frail and can be destroyed to bring Grumpy Kong closer to ground level. Since this fight is pretty straightforward, players just need to destroy its legs to get access to Grumpy Kong. The Kong Bananza can make this fight a piece of cake. There's not much more to say about this fight, so I'm placing this on a low B tier. Moving on to another mini boss fight in the Canyon layer, we have Mad Mixer. I don't even know what a Mad Mixer is, but this boss fight is really fun to me. It's great to see that Donkey Kong Bananza hasn't shied away from the classic minecart challenges. I mean, would it be a DK game without them? And it's cool that the minecart is rotating more than just a basic circle pattern around Mad Mixer. The track moves up and down, providing opportunities for the player to get a different angle. I'm realizing now that collecting boom rocks to chuck at the boss is kind of a little sneak peek into the Elephant Bananza. It's great to have the option to either use the control stick or Joy-Con motion controls for aiming. Options are great. The only real threat in this fight are those lasers on the track. You could easily beat this with no damage. As fun as this boss fight is, there isn't a whole lot more to it, so I'm placing this on a high B tier. Now to move on to the boss fight for the Canyon layer. Wow, that's a lot of fights in one layer. It's Stompenclomper. The design is pretty decent. It's even more similar to the last fight against Grumpy Kong. Just another fight to focus on destroying its legs to knock it over. However, this boss is more focused on the stomping aspect in fighting, as one can guess in its name. But it's not really the biggest threat of a boss fight. It's so slow moving, the stomping mechanic is fairly predictable and easy to avoid. It's kind of interesting how once the boss's health bar reaches halfway, it regenerates the terrain around the Void Heart. I mean, it needs more opportunities to try to stomp DK, so I suppose it's necessary. This one really isn't all that challenging or creative. There's plenty more to come, so I'm placing it on C tier. Now that the first batch of Grumpy Kong fights are defeated, it's time to move on to a really cool layer, the Freezer layer against that Poppy Kong. Being the director of intelligence, it's no surprise to see her use an invisibility potion. Gee, I wonder where she got that idea from. Her speed is unmatched, and that snow makes it really challenging for DK to move around, making for a rare opportunity to actually need the zebra transformation. As much as I enjoy the Poppy Kong fights, there isn't much more to it besides dodging her attacks with a Bananza ability and throwing your own punches when her guard is down. We're still pretty early in the game, so these boss fights lean more on the easier side after all. I like what Poppy Kong has to offer, so for now, I'm placing this fight on B tier. Let's move on to the next boss of the Freezer layer, and I love the continuation of the yin-yang snow and lava use of this fight. The boss is covered in a hot lava texture, so naturally, the players need to avoid its rolling attacks to let it bash into the walls, letting snow fall from above. This is the start of one of the more complex boss fights. You can't just throw heavy punches at lightning speed whenever you'd like. You'll need to dodge its piping hot rolls and toss a chunk of snow at it to extinguish the lava exterior. Only then will DK have an opportunity to attack. This little creature on the inside will try to take off, giving us yet another rare opportunity to actually need the Zebra Bananza. The mechanics behind this fight are really creative and well done. The action feels fast-paced. I think it's worthy of our first A tier. Next up is the Forest Lair, and this boss fight is a freaky cool design that I could see in a Zelda game. Introducing Abracajabya. This design is super accurate to the Forest Lair. I really love the start of the fight and the way that the branches extend out to the player for them to reach the boss. After all, this is a great mechanic first introduced in this lair. I thought it was pretty cool how a large portion of the lair is used for this fight instead of a staged boss ring. This thing could be anywhere in this section of the lair, which makes sense for the Ostrich Bonanza. Hunting it down may be a bit tricky, but that's also the beauty of the Ostrich ability. Spread those wings and fly. I found this fight to be pretty solid. Not necessarily perfect, but a great blend of challenging, creative, and fun. I'm placing this up on A tier. Next up is the Junction, and I was kind of surprised to fight Void Kong so early in the game. I was anticipating there being only one fight against him at the very end of the game. He's a real sucker though, taking off and avoiding the fight because he's too busy to mess around with DK. Now here's a guy with a plan. That banana remote of his gives him all sorts of nasty powers. Firing off laser drills, creating terrain to build a wall between him and the player, spawning lava, spawning enemies and void terrain. I guess it's kind of interesting that this fight takes place in the previous layers, although it feels a bit like a hassle to try to hunt him down. I'd almost rather he stay in one place, but that's kind of the point of this fight and reflects his character. He's hungry for power. The ending of this fight kind of feels like a cop-out. I'd like to think a defeat means he stays defeated, but I suppose this is like defeating a Pokemon leader. Oh, you beat me this time! Besides, Void has much more in store for us down the road. I'm going to place this fight high up on A tier. Now it's time for the Tempest Lair, and boy do I hate flying enemies. It took me a minute to figure out how to take out this boss fight. The different textures of this game kind of feels like a complex game of rock, paper, scissors, much like the different Pokemon typings. So for the beginning, it just didn't click with me that the gooey material Blusterwing was spitting out could also stick to its wings, it being the same material. Weighing it down finally gives DK the chance to attack it. I don't love that this fight is broken out into phases spread out in the world. I felt it slowed down the game just a bit. The final phase is pretty epic though, I can't deny it. Given that these early boss fights are designed for each new Bonanza ability, I think this final phase is the best part of the fight, and for the Elephant Bonanza. DK slowly falling down into the gust of wind to slam punch the boss feels like an awesome nod to the ending of Country Returns. Our guy DK is so powerful after all. This fight gives me mixed feelings, but it has a strong finish. I'm gonna put it on B tier. Next up in the Landfill Lair is Re-Peekabruiser? I'm a little surprised to see rematch fights in this game, but I guess that's kind of like dealing with Team Rocket members over and over in Pokemon. They're back for more, and this time a little tougher than the last fight. There really isn't much to say about this rematch against Peekabruiser. If anything, there's even more of those annoying Peekaboopoids coming out of this thing, and these targets for even more to spawn attack the player. Otherwise, well, it's essentially the exact same fight, but a little longer. I really don't have anything more to add to this fight. It's ever so slightly more challenging than the first Peekabruiser fight. I'm just gonna place this a little higher on D tier. With more rematches on the mind, it's time to fight that Poppy Kong again in the Radiance Lair. This rematch is essentially the exact same as before. Poppy Kong going invisible with crazy speed, but she's even faster this time around. I don't think I even attempted the Zebra Bonanza for this one, and it makes less sense to do so because of her zigzagging. This fight is certainly more tailored for the new Snake Bonanza anyways, using big jumps to avoid her speed, or even the glare move to slow down time. One thing that I like about the Poppy Kong fights is how it kind of feels like an anime fight. I mean, not by much, but it's sort of there. But it's crazy that Poppy Kong has had enough of this crummy job and resigns from Void Co. Honestly, we love to see this character development. Klungo walked so Poppy and Grumpy could run. Unfortunately, there really isn't much more to say about this fight, and it's very similar to the last one, so I'll put it on B tier again, just above the last one. On to the Radiance Lair. Grumpy Kong is up for another rematch with whatever this crazy thing is. I actually find this fight to be far more interesting than the original fight in the Canyon Lair. We still need to take out its legs to bring Grumpy Kong down to our level, but straight punches won't cut it this time. This beast has light reactive material protecting itself. It's always neat anytime the setting can be used against a boss fight. Players will need to open up pockets of the ceiling to invite sunlight into the battleground, and guide Grumpy Kong into the light to lower its defenses. This fight can be tricky, but it's also very creative, so I gotta give it credit, as well as Grumpy Kong retiring from Void Co. I think this one is more deserving of a low A tier. Moving on to a mini boss fight in the Feast Lair, and Mad Mixer is back for a rematch. This time it's even more mad with a goop shield to protect it. While this fight is really just like the last one, the different chunks to throw for either the boss or shield is a cool twist. Salt chunks for the goop and bomb rocks for the boss itself. So it's important to pay attention to which chunk you're about to chuck, or switch your ammo for what you're focusing on. I'm glad they gave us another match with the minecart and made an already great fight even more tough. There really isn't much more to say about this one, but I'm happy to have another go at it. I'm placing this one on B tier, just above the last one. Moving on to the other boss fight of the Feast Layer, Muckety-Muck. This is a wacky design boss fight. The battlefield is sure to get messy with its acid attacks destroying the terrain, and the player needing to use chunks of salt beneath the main layer to chip away at its exterior. As the boss takes more damage, it shoots out muckoids and other projectiles to slow down the player and make more of a mess. Of course, it moves even faster as the fight goes on. In some ways, it feels like this boss is preparing the player for the final fight of the game. It's really a solid fight overall, so I think it's worthy of A tier. Now this is where the fun begins. This is the VoidCon fight I was looking forward to. Starting off in the unusual setting that is the Forbidden Layer, and creating paths by throwing chunks of terrain into the sky. Such a unique twist to this world and finding a way to use it in the fight. Sure, it's still a chase fight because Void is a little sucker like that, but this kind of chase works way better. Also, some of Void's attacks make it challenging to create a path in this layer. That banana remote avoids gives him far more tricky moves to avoid down the road. Plenty more laser attacks, raining enemies, even more lava to avoid, the Void terrain to destroy. The soundtrack here is so epic. It really suits VoidCon going a little crazy and desperate for victory. There's a section with vocals in the background, and I can't tell if they're chanting mine or void. Either way, it's a cool aspect to the song that adds to the urgency. This was one of the tougher fights for me to clear. It took me a few tries to really beat him, but without a doubt, it's one of the best in the game. One of the best moments in the story, and gave us one of the best reveals in years.
No way! What?
I'm so satisfied with this boss fight. I love the way that he forces Pauline to use her singing powers to save DK. Even if it manages to get him, killed? No, this little guy can't be dead. I hope to see VoidCon again in the future. I'm placing this fight as our first S tier. On to a mini boss fight for the planet core. And wow, I can't believe the game throws another mini boss at us right before the King K. Rool fight. They know we're itching to fight him again after all these years. This fight kind of steps it up from the last fight in the canyon layer, especially with these massive lava steps. You don't want to get caught underneath that attack. Overall, this boss fight really is the same concept as the last one. Just take out both of its feet to get to the head exterior. You'll want to leave the lava-covered foot to areas to wear it out. Other than that, well, it's another rematch fight. I'm placing this on C tier, just above the last one. The big moment is finally here. The Planet Core boss fight against the one and only King K. Rool. This Bananium root design for our favorite croc is so dang epic. Notice the details in the cracked belly armor, the sick banana cape and jewelry, including the new banana crown. I love how we're seeing similar attack mechanics from previous games, starting with firing off a massive cannon, but also this mechanic was taught to the player earlier in the game. It's such a classic K. Rool move for the cannon to shoot out more than just cannons, such as muck, as well as the player using the Elephant Bonanza to throw chunks to clog the cannon temporarily. I'm going to include this iconic fake out moment for K. Rool after the fake credits because, wow, what an amazing callback and accurate representation of this character. I mean, it's so accurate to the one and only King of Kremling. He won't be stopped that easily. This section of the fight is really creative and cinematic. The Bananium root rushing the player to the other side of the surface and using chunks of golden bananas to counter K. Rool's attacks. A+ material here, no notes. It's going all the way on S tier. Of course, that's not all. I didn't think it was even possible to get an even more amazing finale battle, but the big reveal of New Donk City was a fantastic ending, as well as the incredible reference to DK64, the last fight taking place in a boxing arena. Seriously, nothing else tops this. This is a lengthy fight, so it's best to come prepared with plenty of hearts, apple juice, melon juice, the works. This design for K. Rool is bananas. This is clearly a sign of someone who has absolutely lost it from going power hungry. I wouldn't be surprised if we see this form again as a final smash in the next Smash Bros. Title. But I'm a little shocked by how much health K. Rool has for this final phase. That might be my one and only little nitpick. But hey, it's the ending of Bananza. You gotta soak up every minute of it. His mechanics are essentially the same as Phase 1, but more chaotic. This time, cannonballs can jump, bounce, or spin in multiple directions. But after punching a few cannons back at K. Rool, his next move is pretty brutal. Cannons fire in all directions to cover the floor with as much goop as possible, followed by a wall of these massive goop hands. It took me a second to get into a groove and combat this, but it's intimidating the very first time it happens. I felt incredibly desperate for a safe area during this moment. The goop is everywhere. I found myself using the Elephant Bananza for a lot of defense against the goop and firing projectiles. And of course the Kong Bananza to deal as many punches as possible, chipping away at his health. This fight is so epic, maddening, and one of my favorites against the big crazy Kremling. We've spent years wondering if we would ever see the king return, so this fight was well worth the wait. I'm placing this at the very top S tier. The king deserves it. What a crazy variety of boss fights. While it starts off a little too easy, those last batch of bosses really made it worth the wait for a real challenge. All 3 members of Voidco were awesome new enemies for DK, especially Void Kong. That little guy is bananas, and I would welcome the idea of seeing him in another game. K. Rool has proven that anything can happen. Here are the final results of this tier list. Quite a bit of rematches in here, but overall, I like where it's at. I'm curious to hear how your list may differ. Feel free to share your list below in the comments. Take care, and see you next time.